And joining me now with more on this is our guest who's coming to us live from Denver, Colorado, Bill Menezes, Principal Research Analyst with Gartner Research. Bill, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Now, Blackberry's board of directors, thank you. Blackberry's board of directors has formed a special committee to look into strategic alternatives. And in addition to the sale of the company, Blackberry said it would also consider joint ventures, partnerships, and other options. So what is the most likely outcome here? Is strategic alternatives just Wall Street code for going on sale?
Essentially, that's the most likely outcome. The way that BlackBerry's sales have been going, especially with these new flagship products, the BlackBerry 10 line of products and services that accompany it, have been, to put it nicely, a little bit dismal in some of the major markets, such as the United States. As a result, the company seems to have come to terms with the fact that its days as a standalone independent company may be numbered.
So why would it go private at this point? Why does it make sense now?
It is actually something it's been talking with outside parties and investors about for at least the past year. Right now, with the latest market share figures that have come out, the earnings coming out in the next several weeks, there seems to be an opportunity to move on this before things appear to be getting worse. Again, the market share figures in key markets such as the United States show that the new BlackBerry 10 products are maybe getting 1% to 2% of the market share, and the gap, if anything, has been growing. You may have seen figures in the last few days that showed that Windows Phone in the United States had a better performance in terms of getting market share in the second quarter than BlackBerry did. And as the number 4 choice, it's rapidly being taken out of the consideration set by both consumers and by the large corporations that always were the backbone of BlackBerry.
Now, Bill, you mentioned how BlackBerry's market share has declined. It used to be the market leader. Its market value has fallen to $4.8 billion from $84 billion at its peak in 2008. And shares have fallen nearly 92% over the past 5 years. Why has BlackBerry struggled so much in the smartphone market?
It lost ground very quickly once two things happened: the iOS system, Apple's smartphone platform, and Android as well. BlackBerry always had a tight grip, especially on the corporate market, because of its strengths in things like smartphones, where it was an early leader, and the security of its platform, which is important to businesses using it for email. iOS came along and changed all that with a much more compelling form factor, the iPhone, as well as essentially equivalent strengths in security and much broader base of applications. It was an easier to use phone. Consumers liked using it, so they started asking for that type of choice in the corporate environment. And once corporations and IT departments realized they could support the iPhone as easily as the BlackBerry, and in some ways have a more versatile device, the gap started to widen. The entry of Android has just accelerated that. Again,
now, Bill, you mentioned BlackBerry's security, and that is one of the company's best assets. It has a really good reputation for having strong security solutions. BlackBerry also holds a few patents that could be valuable. So what would you say is the company's most valuable asset, and is it most likely that the company will be broken up in a sale and just some assets purchased and others not?
Well, the assets you mentioned, there is a lot of thought that those are, in fact, the most valuable parts of the company. If BlackBerry were acquired or taken private by, say, another company the way Palm was a few years ago by HP or Motorola was by Google, then the hardware side of the business, the smartphone manufacturing, becomes significantly less valuable. So the services, the mobility management software that it's created for BlackBerry 10 that enables a corporation to manage not only BlackBerries, but also iOS and Android devices, all with the same solution, is one of the more compelling parts of what the company has to offer. Same with the patent portfolio. It's conceivable that you could see another company or a private equity investor come in simply on the strength of that patent portfolio with the idea that leveraging it or somehow licensing it makes more sense than running the company as a hardware maker the way it is now.
Now it's a shame because a lot of people love the hardware. Personally, I'm one of them, love the keypad. But if the hardware were to go, what kind of partnerships would make most sense for BlackBerry? Would a Microsoft perhaps join? Who would likely team up with BlackBerry?
There are as many potential partners out there as there are different areas where BlackBerry plays. So obviously, technology hardware companies would make a lot of sense because they can immediately leverage the software side of the business and the patents that they've created. But then you look broader, and large-scale manufacturing companies, say in the automotive business, which are continuing to add more and more sophisticated communications infrastructure into their cars and trucks. There could be a lot of room there for them to leverage what BlackBerry has in terms of its proprietary software to create an even more complex or valuable communications ecosystem inside the automobile. So there are a lot of different areas where that type of background could become valuable to a lot of different types of companies, not just in the technology business.
So, Bill, the BlackBerry handset, the hardware as we know it, you say the Crackberry, which the phrase was coined when nobody could put down their BlackBerries. You're saying that that could become obsolete in a matter of time?
If you look at the market share figures, it's rapidly headed there already. When you look at some of the faster growing mobile markets in the world, such as in China and Asia Pacific, and you see that BlackBerry isn't even in the top 5 in terms of market share on a quarter-to-quarter basis with its new device, that tells you that the consideration set has moved away from it. And there are other companies that now can replicate that type of hardware. So yeah, the Crackberry had its day, but that day increasingly looks like it could be over.
Indeed, the end of an era. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Bill Menezes, Principal Research Analyst with the Gartner Research Group. Thanks for joining us.